so many things happening that to even begin to try to shape it into anything, it's too overwhelming. And it's not that there's anything good or bad. It's just so many things. Just so many things.
Like what? I mean, aside from the obvious.
This is busyness every day.
Yeah.
Busyness. Strange panic attacks that have nothing to do with anything at all. Then dissecting why that panic attack happening. Always coming back to, it's because you're afraid of everything. Everything. You're just afraid of dying, being fired, people hating you, people not hating you, you hating you, which is why you think that everyone hates you. Then you hate yourself more because you need to stop hating yourself. And, just normal, rigmarole.
Right. So, I mean, anything in particular kind of triggering that? Or, I mean, have you noticed a pattern there? Or is it just everything's coming up panic?
That's probably just the weather.
Well, I mean, that really does have a lot to do with it, I think. I mean,
it's been insanely wishy-washy weather. It was like 70-something yesterday, dropped to 30-something today. And then it was like rainy, and then like a week before that, it was like snowing, and then it was super nice. And it's like,
I know.
I think my body's as confused as my mind.
Yep. The same thing has been happening here. Like, it was 62 on Monday. Yesterday, the world was covered in a half inch of ice. It was like 40 today. It's going to be about another quarter inch of ice tomorrow. Yeah, I mean, it's just back and forth. So, yeah, and the seasonal affective disorder. I mean, that certainly does have a role to play, I think, for everybody. I know that, when I first talked to, not when I first talked to a doctor, but when I most recently, as in 12 to 13 years ago, talked to a doctor and said,
I thought you were going to say weeks.
Yeah, no, like 12 to 13 years ago when I was like, sometimes I just get the weepies, I get the sads. And it was, middle of the winter, gray, and our friend Joy Moeller, very poetically said that, the sky was the same color as the concrete. I believe that the sky was the same color as the concrete that day. And I said, I just get the SADS and I just don't feel so good. And the guy's like, well, it could be seasonal affective disorder, but I said, yeah, it could, but I've always had the SADS. He said, okay, here's some medicine. So, and that's how I got back on my medicine 12 to 13 years ago. But yeah.
And then that's how you get into rehab 2 years ago.
Right, exactly. And
it was heroin and cocaine and
nice speedball.
It got you through the SADS.
I think that probably would get you through the SADS and probably drop you in a whole new dumpster of SAD.
I don't think there's any other reason that people take drugs
to get rid of the SADS. So.
Or the happy. Or just too happy.
I mean,
that's got to come down.
Let's take it down a notch, shall we? So nothing in particular other than the gray weather giving you the SADS.
I don't know. Probably so.
Well, I hope so. I mean,
I'm sure there can be any kind of trigger. It's just
sure.
I was talking with a friend the other day. We were just generally chatting about getting older and always being anxious about. Like there's no loyalty in work. There's no guarantees in anything. That's just life in general. He's like, yeah, if you're not paranoid, you're not doing it right. I'm like, well,
yeah,
that's maybe true. I was like, there's no success without a little bit of paranoia. I'm like, that could be true. Could very well be true.
That actually makes me think of something that I've thought about on and off over the last year or two. With the owning a small business and all that stuff. And I think about the generation before us. Well, actually, I think about our parents and their generation and where, they all, that was the generation where you got the gold watch after 30 years of service to one place. And surely there has to be.
And it was expected.
Well, yeah, it was. Yeah, exactly. And I don't know whether it's just us and the industry that we're in, or I would love to know. Surely there's got to be somewhere where that still is a thing. You know?
All I could think, and this is probably just an assumption and not, I mean, this is not based on anything. All I can think is the places that have strong unions.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I mean, that's the first thing that kind of came into my mind is auto workers and things like that. So, which would have strong unions.
Yeah. And there's hardly any of those anymore.
True. Very, very true.
I mean, that's what the whole gig economy kind of killed that to some degree.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Well, since you want to have a form of union, we're going to outsource it, and we're going to Uber this thing, and we're going to Amazon this thing. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
That's the way business has gone. There's an interesting article, I think it was in The Atlantic, that talked about the strange dichotomy of Amazon's business expansion.
Yeah.
You know, like all these cities are vying to get
HQ2. Kansas City was one of them, and they were in the running for a while. And then that petered out.
They're talking about how Amazon has like warehouses all over the country.
Yeah.
And they bring in like thousands and thousands of jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And like these they usually go to economically needy places, you know, that need the work, need the jobs. And then they when you start breaking down into it, it's like they hired at just the right amount of money that it's not too much, but not enough to really live on very well. They never keep you on full time. You're like 30 hours a week. And they promise all sorts of incentives that don't kick in until 2 years, but you almost always get fired before 2 years. So it's like these places, it's factory work, it's hard work, it's stressful work. It's all about numbers. Mm-hmm. You have to be quick and you have to get these numbers. It's not about quantity. It's not about quality. And people get burnt out and they don't want to be there. And so like these towns get a lot of people working there. Mm-hmm. Amazon hires almost everyone. There's not a whole lot of other choices. The fact that is just any job a good job?
Yeah.
Or does a good job entail a lot more than just the fact that you're employed? You know, like it's like that was like the broader question of like Amazon's perpetuating the notion that any job is a job that's worth having, not just demanding that job also be beneficial to you as well as the company. And then that got me down the spiral of like, it seems like that's the whole problem is the corporations like, you're doing this for the benefit of us. We're not doing anything for the benefit of you.
Yeah.
Whether you as a user or you as an employee, in terms of like, you know, we're collecting all this data, not because it's going to help you at all. It's going to help us. It's going to help us know how to make more money off of you. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, there's all this weird intertwined, and that's probably why unions are gone, because, again, they're not thinking about how it helps you. They're just thinking about what helps them. I mean, that's always been true, but it seems like it's just technology has enabled that to happen so much more passively and quickly.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know, and we have a huge Amazon warehouse down south of your old neck of the woods, down in Gardner, Kansas. I mean, it's just this gigantic, and so we'll have on the radio here, radio ads for, you know, come in and get a job at Amazon warehouses there, and I've always had to just assume that if you show up, you're going to get a job. You know, it just seems like one of those things, like it is such a revolving door that, I mean, they'll probably take as many people as come in to interview because, you know, God knows that half of those people that interview now in 6 weeks are going to be gone because they got in there and went, wow, you know, not enough money to pay me to do this job. And then, like you're saying, you know, just kind of that churn and burn of the whole thing. So, yeah, I mean, that's but and
then I think they flip side it with there's an older factory across the street in this town. I think it was somewhere in California, that like it's the same kind of work, except these people are in a union and they get $40 an hour compared to like 12 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And the people that work there get promoted and they can afford a car and pay off their, get a home and have loans and mortgages and all that stuff. It's just like, how does one hold a corporation accountable to be good to its people?
Well,
that's like the ultimate question.
Well, I think the easy answer, the easy, that's fine for everyone question is you hold them accountable with your dollars. But that only goes so far.
It doesn't work with Amazon.
No, that only goes so far.
Because they have a stranglehold on.
Oh, yeah.
Basically, everyone has to cater to it's like everyone's trying to compete with Amazon's model, which is really a bad thought.
It's terrible.
Not an idea that will win.
It's terrible. And I can tell you firsthand how that trickles down to people's perception about everything retail. Just like with my Etsy store, with my wife and I's Etsy store, with selling vinyl decals that we make on the vinyl cutter, like the little $200 you go buy it at the hobby store cutter. The expectations that people have, and I'm painting with a pretty broad brush here, but most of our customers are really, really nice and really great and really gracious if we screw up or if the mail screws up or anything like that, because they know it's just two people, making stuff out of their house. But there are a ton of people, way more than I had ever thought, that and my wife was the one that brought it up, and she totally called it. She said, well, this is part of the Amazon effect, is just that, people's expectations of what you get out of e-commerce period is a little bit skewed now. And we've had some people just rip us up and down because, we didn't basically prime it, or or do in the case of, since we have the warehouse here, some of the things we will get same day, and they show up, just like almost like a Postmates kind of thing. It's just like some dude in a delivery car, it's just his car, and he just shows up and drops an Amazon box off at our house.
Yeah, we have Prime Now here, which is basically get it within a couple hours.
And it is. Is it just guys in cars? Yeah, that's what we have.
They're using like an Uber model for delivery. Yeah. Well, and that's the same. Like, at flip side, it goes on to technology companies just doing covert things. Like, it's the Google effect too, where Google gave everyone the expectation that content is free. Like, I should get my content for nothing. I don't need ads. I'll just read an article. I'll just be able to do it.
Yeah.
I don't have to pay for it. Or Facebook, like, I'm just connecting with people, and I give away a lot of my privacy and a lot of my rights for that, but that's fine. Like, these very large corporations that you can't really fight against because they weave their way into the fabric of everything we do, that everyone then is competing with that new status quo. Unless you're really, really good.
Yeah.
Because I was reading, I've been taking these courses online for UX stuff. It's Don Norman's, like, he kind of helped start this school, the Interactive Design Foundation. And anyway, there's one that was on the I was taking a course on this psychology of online sales, and it was like, the reciprocal effect is a huge part of how to get people to be loyal to you, which is you give them something for free before you ask for anything from them. Like, that might be a really great way of getting forgiveness from people. So, like, I can't deliver something in 2 days, or I can't guarantee you the cheapest thing, but I can guarantee you something else, like good good customer service, surprise and delight, like helpful information, free lifetime warranties, or you know what I mean? Like, I think there's all sorts of ways for companies to be smarter than Amazon rather than to be more efficient.
Oh yeah, I don't think that anybody is ever. I mean, and anybody that would come and beat them at the efficiency game is just going to be larger and more Leviathan than they are.
And before they could even try to beat Amazon, would just buy them probably.
Oh yeah, exactly. And who like that is going to show up overnight? Nobody, you know.
But the interesting thing is like how those dominoes are falling, like with Facebook per se, like in terms of like this behemoth that people try to take down. No one's ever going to take them down except themselves. And now we're seeing how that's very possible with like Facebook believing that, you know, the move fast, break things, or whatever you want to say, or whether it's, you know, we don't care about the users, we care about the technology, and we're going to use AI for building smart ad, like, you know, all this brain power, all this technology that's really all it's doing is creating money for them, and exploiting people, and how that put a nice piece of icing over this cake and say that it's you know, benevolent and good and everyone should like it. Then people come in and like, okay, well, we're going to keep that icing on it, but we're going to fill it with shit on the inside. You know?
Yeah.
And now we're getting to say like, hey, just because it comes from Silicon Valley where there's a bunch of hippies and tech nerds doesn't mean that they don't create tools that are really harmful.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, an article I was reading this evening, it, you know, took it back to the Jurassic Park mentality. It's the, you know, they've made so many things because they've made so many things because they could, not necessarily mean that they should. So honestly, and that article made me think of this question. So I wonder what you think. Honestly, how long do you think before Facebook just kind of implodes? Because it's coming. It has to be coming.
Feels like it, right?
It does.
I think Twitter might explode.
Oh yeah, Facebook. No. I guarantee Twitter is going to implode within 2 years. My feeling.
Yeah. God, Facebook has what, over 1 billion people?
Yeah, I know. That's again, the thing is the pure scale of Facebook is it feels like it's going to be like the, you know, 200-foot tall giant that takes 5 minutes to fall down, you know, but then when it does, it's just going to leave a crater.
The best way to know is to, I mean, I don't know. I need to look at my history. I like try to find is there anything in the past that was this kind of big?
Well, it's like the big banks.
Was.
Well, yeah, IBM, the big banks that were too big to fail. You know, I mean, it's a perfect analog to those types of things, I think.
The strange thing about did IBM kill themselves, or was it competition got smarter than them because they got arrogant?
I don't know.
Like, I don't know. Because it was Apple came in, changed the game. It was too expensive. It was too slow. It was too clunky. It wasn't business friendly, but they didn't realize that it was personal friendly. And then it slowly over years and years and years and years created a whole new market and just started taking shares away. But because Microsoft took Apple's idea, dumbed it down, made it for the masses, and Windows kind of. But like in terms of, there's been so many people trying to compete with Facebook to be the next platform. I just can't see anyone on the horizon that would be the one that comes in as more benevolent than Facebook, that sticks to the pure, you know, connection of family and friends and all that stuff, that could come in and hit them while they're kind of down right now. I don't see anything on the horizon.
Yeah,
because I feel like there has to be a healthy alternative for people to jump to, and if there isn't, they're not going to.
Yeah. No, and I don't know. I don't even know what.
It's not Instagram.
No, oh no. Well, no, because that's part of Facebook anyway. You know, and
that's true.
Yeah,
that's
so this is really interesting. I feel like this is oh gosh, that's a lot too. So as you were talking about IBM, I googled, I typed in IBM history, and you know how Google auto completes. So the very first thing so I typed in IBM history. The very first thing that it wanted to autocomplete after that was IBM history Nazi. So then, I said, okay, let's go with that. And it brings me to this article about IBM and the Holocaust. And there's a book. IBM and the Holocaust is a strategic alliance between Nazi Germany and America's most powerful corporation. It's a book by investigative journalist Edwin Black, which details the business dealings of the American-based multinational corporation IBM and its German and other European subsidiaries within the government of Adolf Hitler during the 30s and the years of World War II.
I didn't know IBM existed.
Well, apparently...
International Business Machines.
Yeah, International Business Machines. Oh, gosh. There's a whole lot of things, and there's some press releases from IBM.com talking about the statement on the Nazi era book. Wow. Okay. I feel like I need to dive into that later. Let's take that out. Nazi. So take out the Nazi part. History of IBM. Oh yeah, it's been around since 1911. So there you go.
Wow.
Or actually, it got its origin in the 1880s.
What?
Yeah.
I would not have guessed that.
Yeah.
I guess typewriters.
It took the name. It took the name IBM in 1924. So there you go. Huh. Well, see all the crazy things you learn just by random Googling. IBM and the Nazis. So there's something to look into.
Some of those things that fall, though, it's like they're also physical. There's something to them, like car manufacturer, like the American car manufacturers just dying. Like there's a lot of pretty easy signals to see how they collapse in terms of outsourcing too much of their process.
Well, outsourcing process,
losing workers,
or getting
bad quality,
cut off at the knees by competitors.
But then, like with Facebook, it's
I mean,
it flies in the face of what's happening in the world today. Anyways, like how much are people willing to take of something bad before they do anything about it?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, that's and that's kind of where. The article that I saw about Facebook and about and everything this evening, and the guy who shared it, he was like, maybe we all just need to leave until they fix it, and so that's kind of what it's gonna take some sort of a serious seriously massive revolt against people before any of this even, I think, remotely begins to change. And it's one of those things. It's like the claws are in, and people, there's so many, I can think of in the last 5 years, so many times that I've wanted to just get rid of Facebook. Didn't even want to be around Facebook, but but I got to have Facebook for work because I gotta
have Facebook because I have to log in.
Yeah, I have to log in. Yeah, I have to log in 12 million different places, and it's tied into my Facebook account. And I'm the administrator of all these pages. That if I didn't have a Facebook account, then I wouldn't be able to do these things for my job. And
or I can't remember these people's birthday or their contact information, or it's the way we can chat quickly because I don't have their phone number and. They're not on LinkedIn and they're not on Twitter or whatever, Right. Yeah, it's like you said, I think it's they have successfully created I wish I could find a better word than a web because that's so on the nose, but
wow, I see what you did there.
they just have tangled everyone into it, which is it's just smart. I mean, it's brilliant on their part. The problem is that leaving it, also, they still have all of our information. They know so much about everybody.
And that's not going away even if you deleted your account.
No.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I mean, how many years now has the trope gone on about, to so many people, Facebook is the internet. Absolutely is the internet. And even, you know, I got a text from my sister like last week, and it asks, you know, does it drive you nuts as much as it does when mom refers to Facebook as emails? I mean, you know, so I mean, it's even gotten to the point that, you know, my mom doesn't know the difference between a whole lot of things on the internet anyway, but Facebook and email it's the same thing, you know? So, yeah.
I don't know where we're going with it.
I have no idea. Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, it does tie a little bit into what we were. I think you had read.
Right. It actually does. It actually does go into something. Yeah, what we had actually planned on talking about.
Yeah.
It actually does have a little bit of something to do with that. So yeah, I mean, tee that up if you would like.
Yeah. I'm sure it's made the rounds for anyone who's listening at this point. But Mike Montero wrote a piece called. Oh, no, I forgot what it's called.
It's called Design's Lost Generation. I have it up right here.
Yeah. And it touches on a lot of stuff. Some of it I agree with, some of it I don't. Generally, I know his basis of thinking is Twitter. He hates Twitter so much. He hates it so fucking much. But basically, like, you know, designers have abdicated their will, their power, their say, to the will of everyone above them, whether it's based on fear, I got to keep my job, I don't want to lose my job, saying no means I'm going to lose that job, or with the trade-off of you're making a great thing, it's innovative, it's cool, without thinking about its effects on others in terms of how you're manipulating them, whatever it might be. And that's how we've created the situations that we're in now, where we're just talking about with Facebook and its dilemmas, or in the past, Uber and its covert data collection that no one knew about and all that stuff, that it should be within the power of designers who are creating these interfaces and these engines that drive so many things, no pun intended with Uber, that it's within our power to say no. And I'm reading that being like, true, but also not true. Like,
yeah,
it's tough because this author, he's right. It is within our power to just be like, no, I'm not going to do that. But I think there's also plenty of good reason to be like, you're going to lose your job.
Yeah.
And there's not always a possibility you're going to find another one.
Yep. Well, I mean,
it's easy to say.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No,
maybe that's because I'm old.
Well, yeah. Well, no, it's not. I don't think it's. I mean, it is the root of the article. He talks at length about how so many of us just don't do. And I mean, I'm not going to get up on the soapbox like this and say, you're either doing the right thing or the wrong thing, because I mean, it really is that black and white in this article. And
right.
And yeah, I mean,
yeah, I think that's part of it too, is he's picking on things that are clearly wrong.
Right.
And there's so many daily decisions that aren't that. Like, is it wrong to create a product that makes money for a company?
Yeah.
Is that wrong?
Yeah. I mean, there's kind of, yeah, it's like the line in the sand that is drawn in this article is so strong that it's like every single design decision that you make is an ethical choice that you must either, be on the right side of history or not. And it does kind of amount to that. And I don't agree with, because not every single design decision that I make is that weighty,
right.
And
yes.
and I know for a fact that if I came into some of these examples that are as strong as they are, yeah, there are a few things that I probably, would have the balls to go, you know what? No, I'm not gonna do that. I had a guy. Well, I had a guy get a hold of me and said, hey, I need to have a website. Okay, sounds great. Have you ever seen InfoWars? I would like to have a website like that. I said, no, thank you. I'm not the guy for that.
Right.
So, that's I feel fine not making that money. But
right.
I mean,
and that's a clearly easy
that's an easy one to
I
make.
think he's going after what he considers universal wrongs, not individually based either belief systems.
That's exactly right.
Where it's like saying it's blatantly obvious that collecting people's data without their knowledge and using it to, exploit, their. I can't remember what Uber did exactly now.
Oh, the Grays.
Yeah, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
But yeah, like some of that's pretty clearly wrong. But I bet up to that point, there was pretty easy justifications for it. It's like, we're using this data to, better provide a service. Mm-hmm. I mean, a lot of that, if you're in the dark, like, how does a designer get access to information they just can't get access to? You can't know the minds of your executives if you're not an executive.
Right.
You could be told what's being done and make a product that you don't know its actual end result. That happens.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I found it intriguing, but just complicated way beyond. And I would assume most people understood that. But, like, I just started going down this checklist of it really depends on what you define as being good and bad, for one.
Mm-hmm.
It depends a lot upon how much power you actually do have in the role that you have. If you're a freelancer, you might have a little bit more power just because it's up to you to say yes or no to even having a client. But if you work for a company, is it wrong to compromise because you want to have a job?
Yeah.
And to what point is it okay, and at what point is it stopped?
Yeah, I mean, and I don't know. I mean
that ties oddly, and he didn't do this in the article. That oddly ties into the whole Me Too movement as well.
Yeah. Oh, what? Okay.
Yeah. Think about it. Women would allow those things to happen because they're afraid of losing their jobs if they didn't.
Yeah. True.
If they said anything. All of it ties in completely. So designers are no different. Anybody, literally, it doesn't matter your job title. Everyone is weighing their options of, should I do this? Is it worth keeping my job over it or losing my job over this? That's everybody.
Yeah. 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 And what, I guess, as I looked at it, the call here is, I mean, it's obviously a see something, say something type of thing, which I agree with that type of deal. But I see something shitty and shady. I'm just gonna, I keep a box underneath my desk and I'm just gonna clean it out and leave right now. I mean, that's kind of the call to action here. And so I think that while philosophically is righteous and good, is not realistic for 90% of anybody reading this. Now, do you hear, hey, that's a really shitty thing that my company that I work for wants to do. You know what? I'm going to start papering the town with resumes right away. That's one thing, and that's the more realistic thing. And I think that's the thing that most people would take.
Yeah, I think it's a worthwhile discussion. I think everyone should read it if they haven't, and don't take it just from a purely designer standpoint. That's just his world.
I mean, it's ethical choices. Period.
So, like, I was thinking about, let's say that you're a young entrepreneur. You want to disrupt the fast food industry. You've seen a lot of technology in terms of robotics and artificial intelligence. You're like, I'm going to make an entire kitchen that's run by robots, individual robots that do individual, do the fryer, make the burgers, time all of that through robots. And then people come in and they interact with the touch screen that brings their orders. It goes through a conveyor system of these robots, delivers your order. Like, you get rid of human interaction altogether. It's innovative, it's clean, it's efficient, it's 24 hours. It's small, it doesn't make a footprint much of anything. Like, all these things that are disruptive and cool and sound great. But then you think about the side effects. How many companies are going to look at that and employ it? Like McDonald's. Oh, you mean we could cut our staff by half?
Yeah.
Think of all the jobs that get lost that aren't going to get replaced, because that is the maybe not the greatest bedrock, but it is a bedrock of starting out jobs and in between jobs and stuff like that. Like,
yeah,
there's these long forecasts of be careful. Again, like you said, like the Jurassic Park thing. Just because you should do it doesn't mean you ought to. And we're fully just going, nope, don't fucking care. We're just doing it because we can.
We are balls to the wall on like, this is cool. Let's try this. Let's do this. Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, it's
quite literally. Do you think Jurassic Park, boy? Quite literally, we create these monsters. Quite literally.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what I think Jurassic Park was. You think he was making a metaphor? God.
I don't know.
I'm just stupid enough. Like, because it was literally about science and all that stuff. But like, you think about it metaphorically, it's technology. Like when we abandon the moral question of should we do this, we create monsters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That is true. monsters that loose from the grip of our control and take on a life of their own. Yep.
Quite literally.
Wow.
Damn.
And how long did it take us to figure out that that's what Jurassic Park was all about?
That's pretty sad that we figured that out. I'm like, oh shit.
It's okay.
We just thought of it as a dinosaur.
Yeah, it's okay.
Awesome.
I was a sucker too. I didn't get it until now. Wow.
Of course, you're a lawyer. Of course.
Of course it was. On the other side of this article that kind of brings us full circle to the beginning of our conversations is the whole thing. The whole article starts with him asking about whether or not licensing, and which to some point you could kind of extend that to unions and things like that, whether or not something like that should exist for the design profession.
Yeah. That's been talked about for...
I know, it's been talked about for a long time.
You and I are old. I think he's our age. He's
older than us, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's been... I think he talked about the AIGA briefly, right?
Yeah.
Like, that was kind
of, that was the closest that anybody got.
You got no... I don't know I got any benefit from being a...
No, I know. I didn't get any of that type of benefit from being a member. I know there's also some sort of a... There's some sort of...
Club?
No. There's like an illustrators guild or something like that. I mean, there is sort of a union for a certain...
I think you're right.
But yeah.
Well, you think about... Like, it can happen in creative industry. Think about Hollywood, how they created Screen Actors Guild, the Screenwriters Guild, all those things, and like the penalties if you don't have those people unionized and all that stuff. Like, so it's possible for something that is quote unquote creative to have unions that powerfully help people.
Right.
Like, I know plenty of people out in LA who that Screen Actors Guild working on a project that has a union, they get benefits, they can live for a year because they get it for a full year.
Yeah,
like that helps them survive in an industry that is temporary.
Right.
for most, you know?
Yeah.
So that the knowledge that knowing that this isn't permanent isn't frightening, because if you work on a project, you're a part of this collective,
Yeah.
which is what
Yeah.
unions.
You know, you get 1 gig a year, then it helps you. Yeah. You're good for those benefits and things. Yeah. But the tack that he's taking here, though, as far as licensing, I mean, it's like ethical licensing. So it's like a bar, membership. A lawyer, you as a member of the bar, you are license bound to this code of ethics, and if you,
he was thinking about it from that,
right? And if
you're a qualified designer, meaning that you
you get disbarred for breaking those codes of ethics, and which I mean, again, philosophically, okay, I'm for that. I think that sounds good.
It's just so much
how that works out is so, today is so dirty and so murky and so hard to see that, philosophically it's a fantastic idea, but just practically, we're not there yet. Absolutely.
Right. Like, who reviews everyone's work?
Yeah.
When they're in a guild. How are these people elected, chosen? It starts to get real gray, muddy, like you said.
Yeah.
Like, there's politics involved. Well, why is this person? They only care about this kind of stuff. They're overlooking this. They're pushing an agenda of their ethics. They're trying to tell us how to be ethical. It gets real murky. And on the school, he talks about schools too. Like, we need to have better, which I agree with. We need a better schooling system.
Yeah.
That maybe that dictates the licensing in terms of you went to a qualified school.
Right.
But again, that entire, you have to change the whole university system.
Yeah. Well, and here's an interesting question from the article based on that, because he's talking about, a design teacher at an art school, and then his parenthetical is, why design is taught in art schools is worth another 10,000 words, but I'll save it for later. Yeah. Okay, well, if you don't teach design in art school, where do you teach it? Do you teach it in its own school? Is it a separate discipline? Is it
I think that's what he's trying to say, is that it's part marketing, it's part technology, it's part art, it's part psychology.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was talking about UX specifically in terms of it's the new shit,
Yeah.
And it's multidisciplinary,
yeah,
and it's kind of grown without a scope.
Right.
Like it has grown out of the necessity of the technology world, in terms of like, well, we have interfaces, we have data collection, we have user profiles and user paths, and how could all of these things be managed into a aesthetic that helps use data to analyze people's interactions, to help push for better data and better results and better metrics to create a better product.
Mm-hmm.
Which design always was that, but now we have so many more tools. All these tools that came about, whether, getting people's emotional feedback on how they feel about something, getting their actual time spent, links clicked, A/B testing tools. Like, well, this color button did this much better. Like, you couldn't do that with a brochure.
Right.
It's the cost prohibitive for one, or a commercial or TV or anything like so. It's grown out of the necessity of an industry that has built these tools that you have to kind of take into account to design around and for.
Yeah.
I believe I think that's where he's coming from. Like, schools are not equipping designers with thinking about these things. You're just thrown into it and learning the tools and trying to fit your design thinking in with it.
Yeah.
And you don't think about what this could mean.
Yeah.
I think that's probably what he's getting at.
Well, it is what he's getting at, and it's well, honestly, it's what it's the type of thinking and the type of questions that Mule Design has now flipped its business model, and that's what they do.
Yeah, he's just. I mean, he's become an activist.
Well, they've completely got. Full disclosure, I actually was emailing him about this last week.
Oh, nice.
They have completely gotten out of the actual hands-on world of design, and they do nothing but workshops now. So,
and that was his way of saying no. I'm not going to keep working for these things. I'm going to do that. But
and that was his way.
Do that because then we would be all workshops and consultants to nobody.
Right. That kind of is his way of saying no. So my way of saying no is to now turn around and educate the people and
we talked about it this week in our I have 4 people that work with I don't like saying work with me.
Yeah.
We talked about this article. It was interesting because they're all 10 or more years younger than I am. And they just thought it was kind of laughable that there would become some sort of licensing. But like, how would that even happen? I'm like, I don't know. It's been something that
it's something we've been talking about forever. Yeah.
Yeah. Like everyone's tried, everyone's thought they had it. And the problem is that there's no one. It just takes like one person to say, this is what we're doing. And I was like, okay. Like people are.
And Mike could be the person to do it.
Could be, yeah.
I mean, quite honestly.
I think it has to happen has to spread throughout programs.
Oh, sure.
But tough,
boy, I tell you what, if there's anybody that I can think of that would make it happen, I think it's him.
Yeah. It has to be people that people look up to as a superstar.
Yeah.
But you think about all the things that there's so many designers that probably don't even know who he is.
Oh yeah, they're yeah. I mean, if you're outside of a tiny group of interactive designers that also heavily Venn diagram overlap with people who were on Twitter pre-2015.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then you know who Mike Montero is. Otherwise,
or if you were,
or if you're a gun owner that got shut down on Facebook, then you really know who Mike Montero is.
Or it's like you're like us, like you're a late 2000, the early aughts South by Southwest goer.
Yeah, going to Battle Decks. That honestly is how I knew of Mike. That's how I really got to know Mike was through Battle Decks, and then I ran into him like 2 nights later at a Happy Cog party. Yes, and that was it.
I remember that. that.
So
good old Greg Story.
Yeah. Oh, Greg. That's somebody else that I haven't talked to for a while that I need to.
His path is very interesting to me.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
We should get him on. We should just chat to him.
Greg. We should. I love Greg. And you know what? I bet he would do it. I honestly bet he would.
He's been on my show. He's been on your show.
Yep.
Your Cocktail Napkin. He was on Cocktail Napkin.
Yeah, he was on Cocktail Napkin. Yeah. He was
now with the Armed Forces, right? Like recruitment.
Is he now? Or
he was at IBM.
He was at IBM.
I think he's now some recruiting.
And that's really recent.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's fascinating to me. I'm like, wow,
it is fascinating. Cool. Yeah. Absolutely fascinating. So here's a left. Okay. Here's a hard left turn.
Yeah.
Going back actually to the idea of brochures and print media and things that you were saying were not feasible.
Testable. Yeah.
So have you seen the Oatmeal's new card game? You've Got Crabs?
No, so they did another one after Exploding
Kittens. So Exploding Kittens, they came out with a new game called You've Got Crabs, and they were announcing it as a Kickstarter, but then they announced it to say we don't need a Kickstarter, it's just available now. But if you kickstarted Exploding Kittens, you got an early chance to buy a copy of this new game, You've Got Crabs. So a guy at the office that I'm contracting with right now bought a early copy of You Got Crabs, and it showed up today, and it was in this great just regular brown box, but the tape said You've Got Crabs all over it, and he opened it up, and and the packaging is beautiful and wonderful. But the thing that I loved about it was on the packing slip on the inside of the box, it had an oatmeal cartoon, and the whole thing was just riddled with variable data points. So it was like the first thing was, like the fat, nondescript, blobby oatmeal looking, the guy that's in all the oatmeal things.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, Aaron, I hate to tell you, you've got crabs. And then it's and you've got a lot of them, in fact. And then like the next panel was a truck showing up, and it had the address of where we were. Yeah. Like a street sign, had the right street, and it had the address, and it just kept, and it was this completely personalized, yet completely formed cartoon. But I don't know. We were all very impressed by it.
Yeah.
And because it looked really cool. It was a great personal touch. And, while.
Yeah, there's a service that we use called Lob that takes variable data that you have on people, and you create print campaigns around it. So it's like, if this person hasn't done this in a while, send this postcard with this personalization about their name or some other stuff. Like, you have sort of data points that fill in to create this custom flow. Yeah. Like there's still possibilities, but you don't know. Do people throw it away? Do they read it at all? Like, because you know that with the emails, and you know that with people visiting your website.
Sure.
You know how long they stay. You know what they do. Mm-hmm. You know that they don't click on anything. But I think that was my point. Like, a brochure doesn't have any kind of longevity that you can be like, let's follow up again on this and let's ask them. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It still is fascinating though that there is ways to.
Well, the thing
kind of bridge it.
Yeah, the thing that was really most fascinating about it was really not so much.
Must have been because of the Kickstarter. They must have known enough about you from Kickstarter.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, it was on the packing slip, so everything that was being filled into the cartoon was everything that was on the packing slip anyway. Uh-huh. It's the dude's names, the address it's being shipped to, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. None of that was groundbreaking or anything, but it was just the fact that it was on the packing slip. It was like this cool, because packing, there is nothing exciting about a packing slip. No. And the entire top half of the 8.5 by 11 page was this cartoon.
Yeah.
That, here's all this cool stuff. And then, down at the bottom, here's here you received, one set of You've Got Crabs, and here's what you paid for it, et cetera.
It reminds me of what Cards Against Humanity guys do, like with their campaigns. Did you do that?
No.
Where you give them like $15, and it's like you get, I think it's like 7 or something of these weekly, random. You don't know what's going to be. And this was like, we bought some land. There was this map, and there's stickers and extra cards to add to Cards Against Humanity, and then they, bought the naming rights to a stadium. Then you got free tickets to go to the game, and they just got doing all these things where in terms of like it's disrupting physical media.
Yeah. No, Cards Against Humanity is I've played it, but I've never bought a set because let's just be honest, I don't know who the hell I would play it with. And so it's just outside of my realm. But one of these days when I do buy it, I'm going to buy the big black box.
Yeah.
And
but yeah, there's plenty of good disruption.
Yeah.
For the sake of delight rather than just doing it because you can.
That's right. You
Which
do
is,
it
I think,
because
what
you
you're saying.
should, but also because you could.
Yeah, right.
And that's
you
one to
can.
grow on. That's one to grow on.
Oh, there's plenty of tools out there that can make things good for mutual benefits. Is not bad. You know, you can learn something about somebody and also help them
Mm-hmm.
with an interesting experience.
Yeah.
Or delight. Like, hey, the world is on fire. We're all gonna die, but here's some funny stuff to make you laugh for a little bit.
That's exactly what you've got Crabs is doing.
Exactly.
So here you go. Enjoy while the Titanic sinks around you.
Listen to this beautiful music as we sink together.
Mm-hmm. So where do we end this today? How do we
I don't know.
how do we leave this?
We cried. We learned.
We did. No, we didn't.
Everyone has homework. Learn about IBM.
Yes, learn about
Report back to
IBM and
us.
the Nazis. I think we all have some homework there. It certainly is. All of it is a conversation worth continuing to have. I don't know that we're necessarily the people who are most qualified to continue that conversation, but happy to help start it in whatever way we can. Gosh, I don't know. We need ideas on what to talk about. I think people need to.
We'll keep.
We can keep on
for
rambling,
sure.
but I think that ideas from the public would be helpful. How?
Yeah, I think that'll
Yeah.
come with time. We have to get consistently.
Well,
putting
yeah.
stuff
I
out
mean,
there, but I
for one thing, we need to stop falling asleep early in the evenings.
Yeah, well.
and that will take care of itself. Hello. Hello. Oh, there you are. Did you hear any of what I said?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Well, then all of the things I said, and yeah. Good.
But
Yeah. Okay.
and Oompa Loompas.